This video is the first part in a 3-part Deltarune Time Capsule podcast. Please check out parts 2 and 3 on Penguin and Entropic's channel after this one. Both will be linked in the description alongside credits. That's all, and without further ado, let's get on to the video. Hello, we are 6 Deltarune theorists, and we are here to bring you the DEPTHSCAST, a whoever knows how long time capsule of the Chapter 2 era of Deltarune Theorizing. I am Brix Braxium. I am first introduce myself here. I think we're all just going to go in order before we're going to talk about why we're doing this more specifically as a group. I'm Brix Braxium. I'm a Deltarune Lore Nerd and Theorist since it's day one. I'm an aspiring game developer, I guess. All right, Trondor, you go.
Hi, I'm Trondor, as he just said, and as it also says there. I'm also a Deltarune theorist, as can be said about effectively all of us, but we'll get to that later. Musically inclined, more so than perhaps the average among this group. However, I'm also a playtester for Scrabdackle, composer for Door Games Deluxe Remaster. I don't know if there's anything else worth saying, so Icebrick.
I'm Icebrick, another fellow Deltarune theorist. I also made a Deltarune TTRPG called Deltarune, and that's about it.
Hi, I'm Entropic Voxels, or Entropic for short. I make music, and I like Deltarune, and I make videos about Undertale sometimes.
I'm PenguinPowerful. I make some YouTube videos on mostly Deltarune, and I do some voice acting.
Hi, I'm Chroma, Chromatic Roses. He, him. I like Deltarune, Undertale. That's pretty much it.
Great.
Aren't you a VTuber?
Okay, so that's all of us.
Or...
So,
Oh, yeah, I mean, I'm so...
No, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine.
I forgot about that.
I haven't done it in like a year or two, because I'm... whatever.
this is scuffed, but we're doing it anyway. No going back.
It's alright. This is how conversations naturally happen.
It adds character.
That's character.
No regrets.
Okay, so
Listen,
what we're doing here
my computer
is-
froze, I wasn't prepared.
Yeah. Okay, so what we're doing here is we wanted to record a lengthy discussion of our thoughts on a lot of things Deltarune related, because right now, as of recording, it is the 25th of January. We don't know when Deltarune chapters 3 and 4 are coming, but we have reason to suspect they're very soon, as we can all agree, because Toby Fox is vague posted. We know that chapter 4's bug testing is ongoing and almost complete, which, according to the roadmap, should mean that the chapters are soon, hopefully. And he also doesn't know when the next newsletter is, which has people thinking that the next newsletter is going to be the big one. So we've been planning on doing something like this for a while. We took that as the sign to go ahead and do it. So that's where we are now. We don't know when the next chapters are coming, but they're probably soon. So this is kind of a time capsule of the Chapter 2 era of Theorizing, past 3 years.
Maybe you don't think of it this way, but once Chapter 3 and 4 come out, it can't uncome out. We'll never have this exact mindset again.
Oh no.
We'll
never think crazy things like Alvin could be the knight.
Yeah, or
No, we'll think crazier things.
That's your crazy thing?
Who knows? Maybe we'll think that's crazy in the future.
We'll never think.
Well, that's what I
crazy
mean.
things like Chris's
If we think
dead.
it's crazy right now, then that's not a difference.
Yeah.
People don't think Alvin Knight is crazy, though. But that's
But they
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
think
that's
it's
a
crazy
future
when 3 and
topic.
4 come out.
Yeah, but we might think we're crazy.
Okay, yeah, that was just your example. Okay.
Yeah, so
We know
we
what we're
have
talking
a
about.
vague list of topics we're going to get to. Who knows if we're going to do all of them or in order. We just kind of have a list for us to check. I guess we should just talk about the next chapters in general to start, because there's a lot to unpack, because we don't really know what's coming.
Yeah.
We know that chapter 3
Sometimes,
is the Dreamer household, and we don't know what chapter 4 is.
sometimes I forget what we know already, because like
No cup.
like I totally forgot that we got actual screenshots of 3 and 4 for like the last few newsletters, including
yeah.
some kind of Noel House thing in chapter
Was the-
4, or it seems to be.
It was the anniversary newsletter, I think, where it was like Noelle with a flashlight, and that's like blatantly the Holiday Manor like closet. It seems
There's like some people. I think it's the church supply closet or something. I guess
yeah,
just
but
to,
there's Christmas
cope.
stuff.
That was labeled as chapter 4, right?
Yeah, it was
Yes.
labeled
Yeah.
as chapter 4,
Yeah.
so we know it's chapter 4, but we don't know where because it's so small. But like from the analysis people have done, it seems to be a closet with like a lot of holiday stuff in it. So it's probably Noelle's house.
Also, our chapter 5 image was like a wreath, wasn't it?
We had
Oh,
two
yeah.
chapter 5
It
images.
was a
One
wreath,
of
and
them
then
was
we
a
also got
wreath.
a balloon. So maybe festival
Yeah.
is chapter 5, which would line up with the dialogue we have from one of the newsletters, the translated dialogue, where Bordley asks Chris. We assume it's Chris to the festival.
Could be Susie.
Yes, I am so hyped for that. By the way, Crispy Chicken is having something. I
The
was
stocks
about
are
to say that it
rising.
might become canon. But
Unless-
yes,
Unless
no, I
Thirdly, is asking
I-
Susie or something, and it's just
It
no,
could
no,
be
no, no,
Susie.
no. I refuse to hear that. I refuse to hear that.
It's possible. We don't know. Yeah.
I'm
We know that chapter 3 is the Dreamer household, so we know that Tenna is a character that we're gonna meet from the sweepstakes all the way back in 2022, I think it was. So we know that Tenna is a character. Presumably Tenna is the TV. What do we think that Tenna is gonna be like?
I actually want to kind of start with what we think the themes of the chapter might be, even as hard as that is,
Oh, like
because
like,
that's probably tied into what Tenno would be.
that's true. Like, what do you like?
Because,
what do you
like-
mean themes? Do you mean like the board games for chapter 1 and like internet for chapter 2, or?
More like, is this going to be... Chapter 2 is kind of breaking down Noelle's... I don't know. It was about kind of making Noelle more independent. That was sort of the character arc of that chapter.
That
In
is
addition
true.
to the overarching stuff about learning about the roaring.
We also had
And-
Bardley too, who kind of character arced, but that was a side focus.
Yeah. I mean,
Chapter 1 arc was about Susie learning
Yeah.
to accept Chris. So I'm wondering what the chapter 3 arc will essentially be.
I mean, it's pretty much like kind of what's the word I'm looking for here? Like a given that it's still going to be about like Chris' relationship with Toriel. Like I
That's-
can't
yeah,
really imagine
almost.
it
It almost
being
certainly has
anything
to
else.
be Toriel.
That
But,
seems
like-
likely.
Yeah, I really can't even imagine what else it would be. Like, I guess we could have like, people theorize about who's the secondary. I mean, like, I do think it's funny how people like assume there will be a secondary character, but I guess the Chris did leave the door open. But it's like the
Is
first
that just from Mike?
Yeah,
I mean,
Or no, did
yeah,
he mean like
referring
a
to-
secondary
police.
lightener?
yeah,
Toriel
secondary
called the
lightener.
police. So a lot of people think that it's going to be Undyne. Some people
Oh,
think
that's
it's
what you're
Naps to
referring
Blue.
to.
But
Yeah, but I've also
Yeah,
seen
actually-
like it's gonna be
Not Naps to
Asgore.
Blue.
why would it be Asgore? I mean, maybe
just saying that's
maybe
what
it
I've
is
seen.
Asgore. Like,
I
it would be
really want to
weird
see
if,
Divorce
like,
Arc.
Asgore to just show up at like midnight.
I don't know. That's what I've seen. I don't think it's gonna be Asgore,
Yeah.
but I've seen that. But so
It's-
theoretically, it could be like a whole
Could.
Dreamer family thing. But I think it's gonna be mostly about Chris's relationship with Toriel and like actually breaking that
yeah.
down. Especially
reckon
because this is gonna be Chris's Dark World, and assuming that Chris is not the Knight, like this is gonna be a very, I assume it's gonna be. I mean, we know it's gonna be a very different Dark World, like just based on the newsletters. And I assume it's going to be very tied into. I this is future topics, but I'm very big on the whoever creates the Dark World heavily influences it. So my assumption
Yeah.
is there's going to be a lot of feelings about Chris, both to their family and specifically Toriel, just because that's who's there. And I imagine we're going to get a lot of Asriel stuff too, but
Mhm.
a little bit more
Yeah, that
vague.
makes
And
sense.
also, especially when it seems like Flower King is like a shoe-in for a Dark World, I don't think Asgore would
I'm an
be
anti-Flower
here.
King.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's another topic.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm also an
Asgore- I feel like
anti
Asgore's
any
almost-
police coming to chapter 3.
Okay.
I
Okay.
can
We're
agree with
against
that
the
one.
police in chapter 3.
I'm the ultimate skeptic.
I
Yeah.
honestly
Really?
kind of believe police skepticism because to me it's kind of like, what does Undyne being there?
Yeah.
add?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, yeah,
Like, I guess-
Undyne really. There's a
I
lot
love the
to
argument
I
explore with
usually see-
Undyne.
I guess just to
Yeah.
be funny, but like Birdley at least also has a relationship to Noelle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
I
also
think
to
that people
be
usually
like,
argue. What I see argued for Undyne in chapter 3 is like, oh, Tenna is the cathode crew. He's like a mob boss. He's a criminal. So maybe Undyne gets to like actually
Yeah,
battle criminals. I
yeah, because
guess. But
there is
like,
foreshadowing with that, with the whole like I want something interesting to happen in this town, but I feel like that could just be like the roaring stuff, like you
yeah,
know,
like that makes more sense to me. If it's the roaring, and she has to respond to the roaring.
yeah, like so we don't need
Undyne's gonna
to,
battle the Titans.
And also, it's just
Yeah.
kind of a joke that like she thinks there's nothing going on, but the world's ending, and
Yeah,
doesn't
and
do
also the
anything
fact
else.
that like this is, and also it kind of makes a distinction between Undertale and this world, because in Undertale, Undyne is living that life, and in this world, she
Yeah.
wants that life, but she can't have it. You know?
I do think there is something to note about how much of chapter 1 had to establish that this was a different world. So like very deliberate things were chosen to be like, Undyne is not a cop. She doesn't have her. Undyne is not a not a cop. Undyne is a cop. She doesn't have like her eye patch. She doesn't know Alphys. So like, she doesn't have any action, right? And how much of that
Yeah,
is
Toby was working overtime with that to like
yeah.
try
Yeah,
and
so
make
how much
it
of that is
clear as possible.
like an active part of these characters? And I give Toby credit. I assume it can be both, but
Yeah.
a lot of it is just we're trying to establish these are different worlds.
So I'm not exactly doubting the theory that chapter 3 will be about Chris and Toriel's relationship, just because that seems what you'd obviously do. But it doesn't seem really connected to like the TV theming of everything we've
yeah,
seen
well,
thus far.
Well, the TV is abandoned because Asgore is gone and Azrael is
Yeah,
gone.
exactly.
That's
But
how
it's
I
like,
think it
does
goes
Chris
on.
care about the TV?
Does Noelle's character arc play into the internet theme?
Yeah, I was gonna
Like
say
that's
that too.
true. Yeah.
Like,
Well, no, Noelle is connected to like internet
oh yeah, she is, but like
history.
that's
Okay,
not
but
part
we
of the
only
arc.
really learned that after.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like-
we learn
that feels a
after
little
that.
bit
This is
not
fair.
tacked on, but like I don't know if Toby 100% had that planned out when he was
Well,
Yeah, like,
planning on this.
I would say
People
to an
really-
extent because of the pop-up flavor dialogue. Noelle clicked on a link to creepy glitch compilations,
That is
Yeah.
as well as like the spammed and familiarity stuff. I think that was pre-planned from the beginning.
I don't
to have
disagree,
these
but I wouldn't be surprised if because Toby did not expect Spanton to be that popular, like he said this, so I would not be
True, yeah.
surprised if
I
a
don't
lot
think
of that was
He expected
not
it to
necessarily
succeed.
not planned, but added in like pumped up more than he
but
planned
like
to
made more
initially.
relevant because
Yeah,
I
exactly.
feel like most
I
of
could
it was
totally
already
see a world
pre-planned.
where the sweepstakes was basically Toby like, okay, I have this idea in my head that wasn't really in the game. Might as well investigate it further since people clearly liked Spanton, and this lets me like characterize the weird route more and characterize Noelle more. I can see the vision. We'll have to see what Noelle is like in chapter 4, assuming that she's there.
And that she's
I think.
not in
I
chapter
mean, it
3.
seems. Wait,
Pretty
Penguin,
sure
what were you gonna
something
say? Yeah, it's like a light world centric chapter, seemingly. I don't know. Do we think there will be a dark world in
No.
chapter 4? Some people think
Well,
there
yes.
will
it's not going to
literally
be
be no dark world.
centric,
I
but
know
yes,
certainly
there is
that there is
the.
a dark world. That's not in dispute.
We also know
We
certainly
chapter
that
4
the
is a
most
standard
recent,
chapter.
the recent Toby
Chapter 4. Sorry.
significant
you go.
light world content in chapter 4, such that he needs to break canon and add save points.
Yes.
Yeah,
Stage
that's
So
what
there-
I
casting
think.
is interesting.
There will
But
be
we
more than
also-
average.
We also know that chapter 4 is a standard chapter, according to the other newsletter.
Well,
So my
much
thought
more
is
than
that
chapter 3.
4 I think that chapter 4 is a normal chapter. It just also has a lot of light world stuff in it too,
Mhm.
if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
I mean, to be fair, chapter 1 has like a decent amount of light world stuff in the beginning. And it's just chapter 2 is literally like you speed off to the dark world, and chapter 3 starts in the dark world.
It's
Yeah, so
also
I think it makes
possible
sense. 'Cause, like,
that
chapter
instead of
3
it, you go.
Sorry. Chapter 3 probably won't have a light world exploration segment at the end. So I think chapter 4 basically doubles up, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
that
Okay.
seems
That makes
likely.
sense.
And it's also possible, like, it's clearly implied that it's a long chapter, a long light world section, but it's also possible that we just can't get back to the dark world for whatever reason. Because I know that in chapter 1, like, you just if you beat the dark world, you just couldn't go back in. And like, I remember,
Yeah, you
I
gotta
can't remember
marathon
exactly,
that.
but I know people who like just like missed so much stuff because they just like, Oh no, I remember. Okay, I didn't play through the light world at the beginning of the game because I played it the day of it came out at like it was like 2 a.m. and I was like I'm gonna go to bed. And then like I had to beat King again, so I didn't play the end of chapter 1 light world stuff for like a long time just because I just watched it online just because I was like I don't want to have to go through that again.
It makes me very
Yeah, that is
sleepy at the end of both chapters.
That is a flaw of just chapter 1's lack of save points. It means you have to do the last 2 hours in one go, which is just annoying.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it is possible that's why there's save points, but it's also I do agree that I think there's gonna be a lot of light world stuff, but it is possible that that's not, it's more just like we can't get back to the dark world for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It's possible. Yeah, it's either that there's just a lot of light world stuff, or there's just a really long light world story section, and it would be unfair to make the player sit through all of it at once. So I don't know. I am
I mean,
on
there's
team.
also
By
the
the way,
spin. Sorry.
while we're talking about the save points, how are they going to work? Like, is it just going to be the Undertale save point, or is it going to be the Dark World save point? Or
People
I am
were
on
joking
team. It's
about-
the annoying dog. It's the
I-
annoying dog. You walk up to the dog, and the dog
I like
opens the
that.
save menu.
I don't think it'll
Yeah.
actually be that. I think it's gonna
Yeah.
be just like the yellow Undertale save point.
But the lore.
Do we think
I
it's gonna
know,
be
but-
diegetic?
It'll be unclear, and we'll argue about it.
Yes,
I don't want that to happen.
Alternatively,
ideal.
Can't
It's
wait.
not
I think it's
it could be
most
like an
likely outcome.
invisible autosave or something.
I can
He
see
said
that.
save points.
He said
I don't think
save
it'll be-
point.
Okay,
I know.
never mind.
An autosave is a save point asterisk.
Yeah, point in time rather than a point in space.
Yeah,
Scattered, like Gaster.
like
Truly.
a goog. Okay.
Kind of going back to chapter 3, thinking on it, antenna specifically.
Mhm.
King is kind of like a metaphor for Susie, weirdly enough, and it's
Yeah.
presumed that Queen is sort of like
Yeah.
a metaphor for Noelle's mom. Is Tenna going to be like Asgore or something then?
I don't.
Ooh.
I don't.
Yeah, that's
Interesting.
possible.
I don't think
I don't
so.
know how that would work.
I mean,
Can-
could
can
it be
I
like,
guess?
what if Asgore went all the way in his corrupt police officer direction? I don't know.
I mean, maybe it just like
Seems
we
weird.
get like mafia stuff for him. I wouldn't be surprised if
Yeah,
Tenna is more.
that's not really Asgore vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless he's like, he has a bunch of mafia guys that like follow his orders, but he really does not want them to do any crime. But they just keep interpreting it as crime.
I mean, yeah, but
I feel
Swanson
like-
seems to despise Senna and his crew.
I feel like the
Yeah.
evil version of Asgore is King. Like I feel like King already kind of plays that role
Yeah,
of
to an
like
extent.
being
Yeah,
so
King is
obsessed
kind of
with.
like an Asgore invasion.
Yeah.
Unless Tenna is like a parallel to Toriel.
Senna
I mean,
is
kind
as
of-
real. I don't know.
I kind of think he could work as a parallel for Toriel. Like, if Tenna does go down the performer arc, then you can kind of easily go, Toriel is a teacher. Teachers kind of have to be on all the time. They have to be presentable to their students and to the other teachers in the building and to parents. So, like, you can
I
go
can
a
work.
presenter arc.
I can also see
haven't-
the angle of like, oh, Tenna is super strict and like
Yeah.
commands his like forces and and is like helicoptering over them and always is like keeping track of them.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough,
Ooh, I
Toriel
guess.
in Deltarune is like not that much of a helicopter pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's not.
Yeah,
that
like, I'm
bad.
trying
You
to-
call
If
her
anything-
in
if
chapter
anything,
1
the
and she's like,
problem
yeah,
is
go home.
too
I'm not
apathetic.
getting you.
You're
Yeah, I'm
grounded,
trying to
but you
think-
can
It's a bit
hang
too
out as
apathetic
long
in
as you
Deltarune.
want.
She's like
Yeah.
it's a very weird. She is both. So she's simultaneously smothering Chris and also neglecting Chris, which is
Yeah, somehow.
like. I mean, I
Schrodinger's
say that,
parrot.
but also that's just my parents. So like, I get it.
I think-
it's
Yeah. Collectively, it's more. It's less that there is like any specific thing that she's doing wrong. It's more that she overall doesn't necessarily understand what Chris needs as
I mean,
much
yeah,
as
that's-
and isn't able to provide what like their friends can. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
like it definitely does seem that like Toriel's heart is obviously in the right place, but you kind of get the vibe that
Of
it's not
course.
working. Like,
yeah.
and she is overall a good parent.
Yeah, she is a good parent. She definitely is
Yeah.
trying, but like she's definitely not doing the best she could. Have you seen Chris's room? Even just
No.
regarding the fact that like I can understand that like maybe Chris doesn't ask for stuff. I can totally see that that would be the situation. But like Chris has interests, and even if you're not going to get Chris anything, have you seen the furniture in their room? Their shelves are cracked, and their bed and drawer are like visibly dull compared to Azriel's. Like, come on.
I mean,
If you
okay,
want
wait.
to find
Didn't
that room
Toby
odd.
say in the Chapter 2 live stream that, like, in response to some of the Fangamer people commenting on the rooms that, like, didn't he say something about Toriel, like, being a good parent? I don't
He
remember
said
the
that your
exact
mother
quote,
still
but
loves you, even if
Your
your room is
family loves
empty.
you. Your family loves you in this game.
Yeah.
okay.
I think it was like it's not that Toriel is like outright neglectful. I feel like the situation is more that Chris doesn't ask for anything and Toriel doesn't
Mhm.
do anything about that.
I think it's emotional neglect. You know, it's not like, you know, I mean, you see people be like, "Oh, Chris didn't eat anything." You know, Toriel's neglectful, but I think that's just game, you know, abstraction.
Yeah.
You know, we're not gonna. I mean, we'll talk about we can talk about shit theory, but
Toriel surprisingly
And also,
does not
she
use
could,
her
like-
magic lemonade summoning from the Kickstarter trailer.
yeah,
she can assume that they ate stuff at school. She doesn't know
Yeah.
that they were in a dark world.
Is there even a cafeteria there?
There's not even a cafeteria. Where do they
I
eat?
know.
Maybe it's the one room we can't go into.
Yeah, it's the
always
staircase
locked.
and it leads.
They also
into
don't have
the
any seats in
cafeteria.
there. It's just tables with food on it.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I just think Toriel's emotionally neglectful. Like she
Where's that
doesn't
quote
understand
from? Is that
how
the full
to.
quote?
It's a quote from Toby Fox in the
It's from the
Undertale anniversary, so we played Chapter
Oh.
1 for some reason.
Oh,
Okay, yeah,
Penguin posted a quote. Your mother loves
that
you.
room
You
always
might be
struck me
worried
as
because
odd.
your room doesn't have stuff in it, but your family loves you in this game. Thank you,
Because
Penguin.
Yeah.
you take one look at that, this is also my impression the first time I played the game, it immediately conveys that, like, what you would assume is that Chris is, like, jealous of Azriel,
Yeah.
or lives
Which
in
you
his
don't
shadow.
really see,
But, like,
but
that isn't
everyone
really...
compares Chris to Azriel.
hmm
There's no, like, implication from any of, like, Chris's dialogue that's the case, though.
I'm
Chris's
thinking that
dialogue.
it'll be
I have
less
a lot of
of,
that.
It's like a Luigi situation.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like
That's
I'm thinking that it'll be less that Kenna or just the themes of the chapter in general will be a critique of Toriel's parenting, and more that they'll just be like a critique of their relationship going both ways, I think. Or at least that's what I'm
yeah, that
hoping.
makes sense to me.
Because I don't want it to just be like, oh, Toriel's a shit parent. I feel that
Yeah,
would
I don't think
be
the
weird.
I
entirety
hope it
of
also
I feel
includes
like
Asgore getting trashed constantly, because my man
Oh,
has
yeah,
never
of course.
suffered enough.
Most
Asgore,
divorced man on the
I
planet.
swear, if chapters 3 and 4 don't give Asgore like any W's whatsoever,
Toby is so mean to Asgore.
he is so mean.
If
Asgore
we
gets
can-
nothing.
If we can just go back for
Do you
one
think-
second,
Oh,
I want to
sorry.
talk about. I just want to talk about Chris's room really quick because we are doing like a kind of retrospective thing. And I want to talk about theories from chapter 1, well, not even chapter 2, but like way back in the day. I remember there were theories about like, you know, because we didn't know anything about, you know, Chris's relationship to the player. I mean, we still don't really know anything about Chris's relationship to the player, but I remember there were theories of like, oh, the reason Chris doesn't have anything in their room is because the player keeps destroying all the stuff. Because I remember you could throw the ball of stuff on the ground even though Chris didn't want to.
I have
And then
no
it's like-
recollection of this.
I have no recollection of this either, but that sounds
Yeah, that seems like an
sounds
obscure
chapter 1
theory,
to
but
me.
it's interesting.
Yeah, I guess I just was in different spaces. I mean, we didn't meet each other all
Yeah.
until after chapter 2,
The-
so I guess
the
I was just in
chapter
different
one-
spaces than you.
Yeah,
But-
we were all in different
which, you know,
spaces. I feel like
yeah.
the Deltarune community really like collected itself with chapter 2. I feel like before chapter 2.
The main
And
chapter
also
one
also
theories
just
I saw
expanded
were like,
massively.
"Oh, Shara's back, and they're gonna
Oh,
murder
yeah.
everyone."
Oh, no.
That
yeah.
wasn't me, that was Kara.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess just like we don't have to go too in depth to this, but just because if you guys haven't heard of it, I just remember because I remember that was something I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But then I thought about it more, and I was like, well, if we're the player and we're controlling Chris, I didn't like. What do you mean? Like I didn't control
Well,
Chris
that's
in
what
the
happens in
past.
Chapter 0.
Yeah, exactly what happened in chapter 0. You know, so it's like has Chris been, you know, having it like, you know, am I supposed to take this as like some kind of like, it's just an interesting thought of like why Chris doesn't have stuff is the idea of like, oh, Chris has been controlled before.
Yeah.
Mhm. I mean,
Who
if we
knows? I don't
wanted,
really
we
know.
could take this into a direction of talking about a diegesis and Brix's terminology,
Let's not.
God.
but
Let's
I'd
not.
prefer we not. Instead, I have a
Yeah, let's
question.
not.
Do you guys think what Asgore did to get kicked from the police force will be revealed in 3 to 4?
No.
I think it'll
I
be
have no
alluded
idea.
to. But
I
I don't
think-
know
I
if
think
we'll
it
get
could,
explicit.
because sorry, Penguin.
I think there's a solid chance of it, just because chapter 3 feels like it's going to be this is all of, like, part of Chris's backstory that you had no idea about chapter. So I think that's going to be a part of it, but
Uh-huh.
Maybe, yeah.
I think it
Also
depends
because,
on
like,
you.
Susie saying that saying to Chris that their family is
right.
really weird. I feel like they'll just have some kind of discussion about it.
Yeah,
Not
that's
that Chris
actually
will
good
say
evidence.
it, but it just I feel like it has to be.
I'm
Sorry,
not sure
continue.
that diner has a very casual vibe, and I
That's
get
true,
the
too.
impression Asgore's thing would be like very serious.
Yeah,
That
that's
makes sense.
true.
My
I
only
think-
thought is it depends whether or not there is going to be an Asgore chapter. Because, like, if there is an Asgore chapter, then I think no. I think it's going to be revealed in the Asgore chapter.
Yeah.
And I'm not super big on. I'm not really. I don't have much opinions on what Dark Worlds are going to go do. But I do think we are going to get a chapter focusing on Asgore, just because, you know, and that might be also tied in with Asriel too. Like, it might not be just Asgore, but he is obviously such a big part of Chris's life, and, like, I think that, you know, I do think we're going to get Asgore in a Dark World at some point. You know, same with, you know, similar
Yeah.
to Troy.
I can agree
So
with that.
I imagine it'll be revealed there. If it isn't, and this is like a future me theorizing what I'm going to theorize in the future, I think that if it is revealed in chapter 3, I'm going to think that we're not going to get an Asgore chapter.
Yeah, that
So
makes sense.
I'll confess this might just be a failure of my imagination, but I've always really struggled to imagine like a Toriel focus or an Asgore focus Deltarune chapter, because I always feel like the game focused a lot more on the Deltarune original characters.
We'll see. I feel like it's going to be
Oh,
mostly.
definitely, yeah.
I feel like what might happen is that chapter 3 might be actually like a Rousey chapter in disguise.
I
Like,
could see that.
I can see that.
Hmm.
because I feel like one thing I feel like I've really strongly believed is that a major conflict in chapter 3 amongst the party is that Toriel is going to try and be like, oh, I'm the responsible adult. My child is in
Agreed.
danger. I have to protect them. Why would I listen to my child telling me what to do? I'm the adult. I can protect them. This is my duty. I know better. I will lead this
Mhm.
group. And Rousey, whose whole thing seems to be the player gets control. Not even Chris gets control, the player gets control. I don't think he's going to have any of that. And I feel like that's going to be a conflict between them.
That is
Yeah,
really. I like that. That's really juicy. Sorry.
I do think a fun. No, you were fine. I do think a fun thing with that is then there is like a player parallel there of like, you know, oh, you know, Toriel can't control Chris, but then, you know, we are controlling Chris. So it's kind of like, it is an interesting, like, it's an interesting chapter to have, if the, you know, the moral of the chapter is like, oh, Toriel needs to not try to, you know, Toriel needs to listen to what Chris wants, then it's like, hey, what does that mean for, so I think that ties really well into the whole,
That's true. That is
I think
very
it ties
true.
really well.
Yeah, yeah. It's
It
like,
kind of like
we make
mirrors-
Toriel learn the lesson that we have, that as
We
the player
haven't.
we haven't learned yet. Yeah.
Yeah,
Chris is just
exactly.
watching all of this unfold, and it's just like, dude, what the hell?
Chapter 2 is kind of already pushing it, but Chapter 3 still feels early to me to have Chris be like out and out rebelling against us or something.
Oh, I think it'll
I
just
don't
be.
No, I don't think that this parallel would be brought up explicitly. It would kind of
Yeah.
just be
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
I think it would just be like, it would just be a good way to tie into the entire thing. Like, I think it is like, obviously chapter 2 was about Noelle, but, you know, Snowgrave is, you know, super about Noelle, but it is also about us controlling Chris, and then Chris controlling Noelle, you know, us controlling Noelle through Chris. So it does all tie into the same thing. And even you know, even chapter 1's Susie stuff is like, Susie doesn't take orders, you know, it all kind of ties into the same theme.
Yeah.
So I think that this idea of like, oh, Toriel needs to learn to let Chris, you know, that they can't control Chris, or that like Chris has their own agency and stuff. I think it, you know, it continues that theme of like the idea of agency and that's the end of the sentence.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
that makes
Mhm.
sense. Okay. I think we've talked
that has
about.
got me thinking about Chapter 3 Weird Roots now.
Yeah.
'Cause-
I
Oh, yeah,
guess
we
we
wanna
talked
talk
I
about.
think we're all in
Firegrave?
agreement Firegrave would be stupid. But now I am
Yeah.
imagining
Okay,
if
wait.
the main arc
feel
is
like-
sorry,
I feel
can
like
I
we
go?
should talk about the weird route, and then I feel like we should try and transition into other stuff that we have planned. I think.
Yeah.
I feel like we've talked
Yeah,
about the
I
future
agree.
enough.
I just want to say that I do have a like soft spot for Firegrave because it is something that I just was thinking, I was like, oh, what a cool thing they could do with Toriel, just like in the very early days of like the end of chapter 2 theorizing, like it's something I came up with on my own. And so even though I don't think it's gonna happen, there is a special place in my heart for it because I'm just like, if
Yeah.
it does, then I could say I called it and I didn't need anyone
I
else.
feel like everyone had the thought of Firegrave at some
No,
point.
yeah, it's
It
not
all
like
occurred- it
super
occurred
unique.
to everyone. What if
But I'm just like,
Toriel kills Undyne next?
yeah, I'm
And,
saying,
like-
Wasn't there like a Swanky Box video about
yeah, I
that?
think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
like,
think that was
I'm not
the-
saying I'm unique. I'm just saying that like I'm being like, oh, because Chris could like use the fact that they're like, oh, mom used to help me. Like it's like a different way of like manipulation and control. Like whereas with Noelle, you're being authoritative, but with Toriel, you're being like, oh, I'm so weak, mom. You have to save me. And like,
Yeah, I get it.
it is
It's
an
like-
idea. I don't know if I don't
I
really
don't think
think
it's
it's going to
real.
happen.
If
My
this chapter
thought-
3 arc is about like Toriel and Chris sort of making up, the weird root being you basically like spitting in Toriel's face, I think could essentially that could be interesting and
Yeah, I can see
uniquely
that.
painful. That distinguishes it from chapter 2 just being Firegrave.
Do we think that the weird route is going to be in chapter 3?
I think so. I don't know. My thought process on the weird route is that this is very divisive right now. A lot of people disagree with me on this, but I really think that the focus of the weird route above all else is like breaking from the story, breaking from fate. Like a lot of people
disagree with that.
think that it's like, oh,
A lot of
we're
people think it's
using
Noelle.
who is like uniquely
Oh.
able to do this.
I mean, yeah, but
and
we think
have to
it's
make
both.
Noelle-
It's just Noelle centric
like-
with the breaking fate. thing.
No, like a lot of people think, oh, we're using Noelle, and Noelle is like uniquely able to do this, and the entire route is about making Noelle stronger so that we can break free of fate, etc., etc. I don't think it's really about her. I feel like it's just about, oh, my choices don't matter. You sure about that? Like, I think it's more rejecting the game's premise that your choices don't matter for the ending and trying to do what you can
Yeah.
to change it. So in that sense, I feel like the weird route could be in chapter 3 to kind of hammer home that no, this isn't the Noelle route. It's not the Snowgrave route. It's the weird route. Anything goes as long as it changes fate.
Mm.
I would say there's a decent chance that after you've Snowgrave Birdly, that there's no more branching paths in terms of do the weird route or not do the weird route. Like the game changes in this one major way,
Oh.
and then suddenly in the future, any changes are because of this decision in the start. And any fate breaking you have to do is because the changed version cannot continue unless you alter it further.
But that's lame.
Mm.
Oh,
I
I
mean,
see that.
I agree that
I
just
think-
on practicality grounds,
yeah.
like if you leave
That's
at
my
any
main
point, that's like 10 billion possibilities or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
there's gonna be like multiple branching paths, but I do think if you want to stay on the weird route, you're going to have to do something. Like it's not just like, oh, you branched once and now you're on the weird route forever.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
you
that you
can
have to
lose
keep-
the weird route.
Like I could see that maybe like there are soft locks basically. Like not diegetic soft locks, but like you can't
You're
continue.
required to do certain stuff.
You have to
That
figure it out.
is weird,
maybe.
Rudy.
I don't know.
No,
It remains to be
honestly, I
seen.
could see it. I feel like unless you continually try to break the game will kind of like forcibly try to correct itself. But like
Yeah,
it'll just be
that's what I
weird
think.
and bad. But like it's still gonna be essentially the same. But Birdley will be dead, and Undyne will be on fire or whatever.
Not that
You know.
just
It figures it out.
Just perpetually
Yeah,
on
I
fire.
could see that. Like it basically it figures out a way to shunt the story so that Birdley doesn't need to be there anymore. And if it does that successfully, then your choice doesn't matter, and you're
Yeah.
basically back. Like it's different, but like you haven't changed anything because it figured out how to fix it. Basically, I could see that.
possible.
Yeah,
If they also
that's
prevent
what
you
my
from
opinion is.
starting the weird route, if you aren't already on it in later chapters, that would also
Yeah,
cut down on
I
that.
think the one thing that I
Definitely.
feel confident in now that I maybe wasn't confident in like earlier in this era was I feel like you have to start the weird route in chapter 2. I don't think you can start the weird route in chapter 3 or 4. I feel like
I'm with
you
that.
have to start at chapter 2.
I wonder-
I mean, we could get like a you should have done all that earlier situation, attacking
Yeah.
him. That could, something like that could happen.
Imagine if it's like there's no weird art in chapter 3, and you could theoretically do the weird art in chapter 4 without doing chapter 2, but when you try and do it, Birdley shows up, and he's like absurdly powerful for like extremely convenient reasons,
So
and you
true.
can't beat him.
The power of smarts.
Yeah, the power of smarts.
I almost think it'd be funnier if he ruins a plan for extremely trivial reasons, and this is the reason you have to kill him a chapter
Yeah,
earlier.
like you have to kill Birdley because he like locks a door as he exits the room or something. He has better manners.
It's like, oh, Dragon Blazers, and then he takes that book and you need it. Like, definitely.
Yeah.
There is a lot of like I remember something that like always felt a little bit cheap about Undertale, and not like to any kind of, detriment to the game. It's just always a little bit is the fact that like your dialogue options and all that stuff didn't really matter at all. Like, no matter what you said, Papyrus is like, we're gonna be best friends, It's kind of like the only thing that mattered was killing or not killing. And
And I
obviously in
think
Deltarune, yeah,
I think that's what
there was a
Deltarune is.
huge 100%.
I
And so I think that the idea of like Birdley changes something very small is I think that matches very well.
Yeah, I think
That
that
is just like these little things, these little butterfly effects that keep happening, because and then the ultimate theme of the game is, even if you can't change the ending, your choices still matter. Blah 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 blah.
So
Because,
people theorize that
learning is
they'll just be
desperation.
fine tomorrow, which is hilarious to me.
Yeah. No, I agree
I
with
don't
that
like
fully,
that.
and I feel like the difference between Undertale and Deltarune on that level is that Undertale is all about the big picture, I think. It's all about how, your actions can
100%.
drastically change the fate of the world, but your little interactions along the way don't really matter. Like, it doesn't really matter who you talk to or what you do. All that matters is whether you kill or you spare these people in these pivotal moments. And that does mean that the game can have a lot to say about like how much impact this one person can make. But I feel like with Deltarune, it's kind of flipping the script, and it's like, no, the big picture doesn't matter. What matters is the small picture, the small choices along the way.
Yeah, I'm
Like,
agreeing with you.
oh,
100%.
did you talk to Sans about Papyrus? If you didn't, then it's weird that you're talking about it now. Did you meet Onion San? Did you inspect the sink before talking to Rudy? Did you talk to Noelle about the chalk? I feel like all of that
Did you get
is there to
the
kind of-
money?
it's there to
Oh
make it
yeah, the money.
You have to pay off the family debt.
Yeah, the family debt, $64.23. That's gonna be a thing.
I just remember in the save file I'm going to be using, I did steal the money just because I was mashing through text. Let's hope that does not haunt me.
Oh,
In chapter 3, there's like, you can't do the secret boss unless the money is still there.
I know you're
I'm
evil.
so glad we've swerved away from weird root discussion.
Yeah. Okay, I think
Yeah.
I feel like that's enough discussion of like general. I feel like that's the big stuff out of the way. Let's talk about the minutia, maybe.
Minutia.
What are we? We're going to get into blood lore?
No.
Or we could also
I
it could also be like just us. Oh, sorry.
I guess the first thing that we could talk about is the stuff. I mean, I guess before we can get into the minutia, we can talk about more generally the stuff that we're gonna miss from this era of theorizing and fandom. Like, Spamton might not be in the spotlight anymore.
Oh,
It's kind of weird to imagine.
Yeah.
that.
oh no.
Okay, do we think that the chapter 3 secret boss or chapter 4 secret boss is gonna outshine Smanton?
It's hard to imagine them being as iconic as
Yeah.
I don't
Spamton.
know.
Yeah.
I can see chapter
Really?
3s in particular going very hard with a lot of people because I feel like the chapter 3 one is the one a lot of people are thinking about. But that means that chapter 4
Yeah.
could shock everyone.
The
be a
problem with
massive
everyone
standout.
thinking about it is there can be a disappointment. Like everyone's like, oh, it's gonna be this, it's gonna be that, it's gonna be the flower, it's gonna be VHS tape, whatever, and it's not that, and you don't like it as much as your idea, you know?
Yeah, which is why
is
the
why
chapter 4 secret boss has the advantage of
Yeah.
we don't even know what chapter 4 is. Like,
Mhm.
and even if we know that, even if we like say, oh, it's probably the church for a few reasons, it's like, okay, great. That doesn't help us. Like, there are some ideas for a
One-
church secret boss, but it's not. No one, like, people have like a consensus of what chapter 3 might be. No one knows what chapter 4 is. Like,
Yeah.
there's no consensus, and that's exciting.
It's really hard for me to imagine something like following up on Spamton, but it's also really hard for me to imagine something following up on Undertale. And I feel like Toby's done pretty well so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
I feel like Spamton is going to still stay pretty popular, and I feel like the main reason for that is just because we had Chapter 2 for a very long time. Chapter 3 and 4 are coming out together. Chapter 5 is probably not too far behind. They're going to come together. They're going to blend together. Spamton showed up and then just like kept shoving his face in everyone
He had
else's.
time to
He
fester.
stayed.
Oh yeah,
He
yeah.
showed up and he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be the mascot for Deltarune for the next 3 years. I hope you love that." And that was our life for 3 whole years, where everything was Spamton related. And
One
I don't
thing
know if
I'm
we're gonna
hoping
recover
is
from
that the next few secret bosses will be more like Jevil, I guess,
I
where
actually
they
think
don't
it's going to
have.
be the reverse, and they're going to get more
Oh
involved.
no!
I don't know.
I
don't know
want
what's happening.
them to be honestly like more of an actual secret. That's not just okay because Spamton, on one hand, Spamton is like very hard to get to. He is much more of a secret than Jevil, but also he
can't
has
miss
such a
Spamton
massive
himself, though.
I would
presence.
say that Jevil is more secret because you have to think, oh wait, what happens if I go back in the elevator
Yeah.
and check the menu? Like no one's gonna
Okay,
do
yeah.
that.
Walk where the
And then-
stars don't shine.
Yeah, and then walk where the stars don't shine. What does that mean? Like I know what that means, like objectively, but like as a player, that's a horrible hint.
And
I mean,
also you
I
have to
would-
remember the symbol puzzle.
Oh yeah.
Oh
There's
yeah.
My
some-
reason for thinking that is because of the sweepstakes where I was going to interpret that as Toby asking if we're sick of Spamton or not. And I would guess that, like, since, I don't know, I guess I'm extrapolating based on 2 data points, but Jevil is less involved, Spamton is more involved, and I'd expect the next secret boss even be more involved because they've all been so popular.
I think
I kind of hope that the next secret boss is a step back. I kind of don't like how
Yeah, I
involved
agree.
Spamton is with the
I think
plot.
I think that like one I don't know which is going to be which, but I think one of the secret bosses is going to be like very significant, very involved, and one is just going to be like you go in a random place and all of a sudden there's
I'm with that.
boss of the game.
Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
hoping for that.
I think
Yeah,
it's
Yeah, I want them
kind
to
of-
be more like actually
spectrum.
secret. Sorry.
I think it's kind of more of a spectrum. Like Jevil is very hidden, and Spamton, he jumps out of a dumpster and is in your face. Like there's
Mhm.
there has to be a spectrum because otherwise it's not going to be secret at all, or it's going to be too secret. So I feel like Spamton and Jevil is a nice range.
Yeah,
I
I feel like
could
Spamton
go
and
out
Jevil
that
are
range, though.
opposites. I feel like they're 2 ends of the spectrum in a lot of ways.
I could see it. I could see a future one being more involved. Like I could see more of the spectrum, but I hope that we get along the whole thing. Like I hope there's one that's even more hidden than Jevil, and I hope there's one that's even more obvious than Spamton. Like I hope we get the whole
So
spectrum.
I'm not thinking of this in terms of like hidden and not. I'm more thinking of it in like amount of content.
Oh, I
And,
think
like,
there's
yes.
yes. Okay, I understand. I 100% yes. There's gonna be. I think we're going to get a lot of secret boss content, and that's what Toby said. He wanted Jevil to have more content, didn't he?
He said
said
he
that
wasn't
he
very
haven't bought
satisfied
the
with the
puzzles.
key quest.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree with that. I think they're going to be very, very. You know, I think the quests are going to be very big, and I hope they are because I think Spamton's quest was a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Even if
But
it's a hacker,
Mhm.
a few steps.
No, I
over
kind
it.
of like. I do
Threshold.
kind of respect how Jevil is kind of just like you really don't know what you're getting into, and it could be anything. I kind of like that because I feel like if the secret bosses are too consistent in that it's like, oh, it's this long quest where you help this character or whatever. I feel like
That's
that's a
fair.
bit much. I kind of do like having that air of uncertainty where you don't know if it's going to be some
Mhm.
super long involved thing or if you're just going to enter a room and suddenly this guy's attacking you. I like the
yeah,
Yeah, I just like the vibe of Jevil. He fits
I
the
love
vibe of
Jevil.
Yeah.
chapter 1, which is like
Right.
smaller scale, like almost
Fun.
cozy. I don't know, he's a cozy. Yeah, he's fun. He's less just
I am
creepy
against
than
them
Spamton.
like just being the same thing. Like, what if instead of like the boss asks you for help and you give it to them, like I don't know, they can't speak and you assemble them out of pieces you have to find around the
Ooh.
chapter.
Mhm,
Yeah, that could be
mhm.
So
cool.
true.
More
Yeah.
broadly, in terms of things that I'm going to miss from this era, I kind of feel like the theories themselves from like the theorists, I feel like they're going to be more reined in. And it's kind of going to be weird, I think. Because right now, this is like the era of crack theories. Right now is where we're at.
Well, also to be fair, the like the length of time. Like I have a feeling that there's gonna be a lot less
also
time
true.
in between chapters. So I feel like we're gonna, people like I think if we wait another 3 years after, well, how long has it been? It's been 3 years.
It's been
4
3 years and some change.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think if we wait another 3 years, it's gonna like we'll get to this point of crack theory again. But I don't know if we're gonna wait another 3 years.
It's gonna be refreshing to just actually have good theories for
Right?
once.
Yeah.
Because like we're gonna
Kind of
get new
we've been
information.
stewing for a little bit too long.
I
I
am
think.
so excited
Yeah.
to talk again.
The
I have been so
has
off of Deltarune just because I have nothing to say anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of gotten to the point where it's like a lot of these discussions don't get anywhere, and the rare times they do, it's not groundbreaking. I am excited for new content because we'll actually have new
Yes,
stuff to talk
yes.
about.
I mean,
I
to
can't
be
even
fair,
imagine it.
Relatively
Yeah.
to like many other communities, we have had like we've been blessed with the amount
Folk
of
song.
sneak peeks we've had. I mean, that was I was thinking of, but also
Yeah.
just other
no, you're not
like
wrong.
games that release episodically. We are getting so many sneak peeks, and
Yeah,
it actually
Toby Seed
like
does good.
But they're not good.
Yes,
they're not
indeed.
good enough sneak peeks to like completely know where we're going, but it's enough to keep us
Mhm.
hooked.
Yes.
Toby Seed
yes.
does good.
Speaking of sneak peeks and stuff, what are your favorite teasers and stuff that we've gotten, like post release
Ooh.
stuff?
I don't
The
remember.
sweepstakes was really good.
Oh, I guess sweepstakes is just the answer.
Yeah, like sweepstakes.
Sweepstakes is kind of like
The newsletters have
expected
been good.
answer.
But the newsletters have been fine. The Valentine's letter threw a nuclear bomb on all.
Yes. Oh my god.
I
We'll
want to
get into
talk
that.
about this letter
Valentine's letter
at some
still
point.
isn't over. We are still questioning what the heck that meant.
My personal favorite has to be like the Kara stuff. Like
Oh, the car letter.
Yeah.
Oh, the 9.
yeah, that
Yeah.
The 9 letter.
That was-
Yeah.
that
I
touched.
really like.
I wouldn't
My
say it's
soul.
a Deltarune teaser though, but I would say
It's
like,
still
as far as
post-release, though.
content we've
Yeah.
gotten
Yeah,
between
it's-
chapters, yes, I do enjoy
Oh,
that.
about the, I mean, like.
Oh, I
the-
almost
the-
forgot about Snowman.
I really
Just
like.
You know
entirely-
what we
Snowman.
did
My
truly
mind.
forget about? What everyone forgot about? Remember the Valentine's Day sweepstakes sequel, The Love Network?
I didn't like that one as much.
I
I
didn't
think it
like
was
that
something.
either.
Oh, didn't forget about it.
Kind of felt like it was trying too hard.
Yeah. Where is the
I'm
silence I dig, Toby?
I know without the. I mean, I'm an
You forget?
RTBS fan, so I was, I was eating. I would loved it, but I love all
2 years
of their.
later at this point, aren't we?
Yeah, it's 2 years. He said that the silence I dig would be released in 2023, right?
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
2025.
Absolutely forgot.
He's gonna release it on Undertale's 10th anniversary.
I'm
It's
pretty
still-
sure.
It's
Wayne-
Undertale's 10th anniversary, so we're giving you spammed and silence ending for some reason.
I don't think it's true, but I still kind of like the thought that the Silence ending had like huge spoilers, and Toby thought it'd be done that year, and he was massively off.
That is very funny.
That is funny. I'm pretty sure Wayne has mentioned that. I mean, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure he's mentioned that. Like, yeah, no, Toby just I can release it when Toby says so. But
Should ask him.
Like future, like, because you said you
I guess-
don't want more spamton, so here's a teaser for the next secret boss, and Toby just massively underestimated like how rabid the fan base was going to be over that, and he was just like, maybe I should just keep this card close to chest for now.
I guess my favorite. Oh, am I frozen?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Yeah,
So I couldn't hear any of you. I guess my favorite teaser thing has probably been the. I mean, like it's kind of a cop out, but it's honestly been the stuff from Undertale, the Grillby stuff and the Papyrus Q&As and stuff. I mean, there's like
It's always
Oh,
nice.
of course.
yeah.
Green grass.
I was gonna say the green grass,
Green
like there has been some Deltarune stuff in there, but or I mean possibly, but
Imagine watching
don't
this out
know.
contact, and we're just all like, oh yeah, green grass.
Green grass.
Green grass.
Toby
You know
telling us
what's
to touch
funny?
grass.
When the newsletter started, Toby was like, "Oh yeah, there's gonna be a newsletter comic every newsletter," and we got
he
like
calls it,
one
like-
comic, and then it was like, "Oh, Metaton's in control of the comic now," and then we never got a second comic. Like,
I don't
Well,
mind
because
that.
the newsletter is now
Yeah.
about Metaton. We don't need one.
No, like,
Ooh, it's the
is the
Metaton.
joke that Metaton canceled the comic because like he's like a
There's
businessman?
I think he just didn't want to do the bit after the
Retroactive
first one.
joke.
The Grillby's Rogues Gallery is pretty much a comic.
Is it though? That's not a
It's
comic.
in the comic
It's
section.
in the comics page, yeah.
It's in the comics section, but it's not a comic. It's
But
an
he still
info
stopped
dump.
after that one.
Yeah.
But we got the
I mean,
Pirates
yeah.
Q&A, so I can't be mad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't mind
Yeah.
it. I like that it's a bunch of different stuff.
What do you make of 789 being night foreshadowing?
Oh, that
No.
No.
Can we not
I
do
don't
that
want to
right-
talk
I
about that.
don't wanna
really
get
like
into that.
789, but there's no way it's night foreshadowing.
Yeah, I
789
straight
is
up.
like,
That's
we could
We're
do a
don't wanna
tabling
talk
whole,
about
789 for now.
you could do a whole podcast about 79 discussion. Honestly, the only reason
sequel
79
coming
discussion
later.
stopped is because everyone collectively agreed it wasn't worth it. I think not because
To
it
be
was done
fair-
discussing, but just because everyone decided this ain't worth it.
I feel like this group could do a podcast in these games. We could just
Let's
yap the
talk for
whole time.
6 hours about Snowman.
I mean, like,
Yes.
It's not
we
even.
could.
It shows a snowman, and the poem has nothing to do about snowmen.
Yeah, like what's
Okay,
the
but I
deal
actually
with that?
did discover like an interesting difference between the Japanese and English translation.
Did you?
Oh,
Where I believe just in English it just ends with like I wish it could snow. Well, let me bring it up.
I wish it could snow whenever I wanted.
yes.
Yeah. And in Japanese, at least based off like Google Translate, it instead says whenever one. Let me repeat my steps.
The lore will set us free.
I'm surprised
That's
there
fun,
hasn't
dude.
been like a big, like Deltarune Undertale theorizer that like is bilingual in Japanese and English that like is doing
Yeah,
all this like,
we're-
oh, here's the
we're-
differences.
The closest
Like,
you
it
have
It would
is,
be
like,
nice
Awkward
if snow
Tales.
fell. If I ask for it, it definitely will.
Huh.
Oh.
I think that's possibly just a syntax change from being back and forth English to Japanese,
Yeah,
and then also
maybe.
coming back through Google
This is the
Translate.
problem with the Japanese script. None of us speak Japanese, so it's very hard to
Yeah.
Yeah,
verify like
The issue.
anything.
Yeah, there
yeah.
was, like,
So it's like
I
it's
thought I
hard to
leaked
know.
some Deltarune stuff for a second.
Mhm.
Remember with the deodorant?
Okay, so
Deodorant.
I guess we should finish talking about this first.
No, I was just gonna say it's hard to know what's in like what's relevant. You know, it's like, oh, there's a difference, but then like sometimes it's like, okay, but that doesn't actually matter the difference. Like it's only just that
Yeah,
because like
It's like, yeah, it's so hard to tell when something is like actually meaningful
yeah.
when we're a third party, basically just guessing, and are extremely biased at that.
Yeah, I know people like point out like, oh, font changes, like dialogue changes, like pronoun changes, and I'm like, okay, but what does that mean? I don't know what that means.
Yeah, like some people are like, oh, the unused strings, they sound like they're a small girl. Ooh, maybe it's Des. And then you have other people who are like, no, there's not enough there to be sure of that. It could be anyone. Like, that's
Yeah,
how
so I
Fong
just-
talks. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
I just wish there was I want like I mean like on one hand though like I don't think it would affect me personally too much just because I'm not super duper big on using stuff I don't personally understand or can verify in my own theorizing. But I just like someday I hope there is like a bilingual Deltarune theorist out there who will do all the fun like mini Legend of localization stuff all the time.
Yeah. All right. I guess that's enough retrospective in terms of state of the community and state of the immediate stuff for chapters 3 and 4.
Yeah. Does anyone else have? Anyone have anything they want to bring up or?
Yeah, do we have
I-
anything you want to bring up?
One
Penguin?
thing. I think I'm kind of gonna miss like all the fan chapters. I think that's something that's definitely going to be
Oh,
less
yeah. Like fan
like
taste?
even they're already going into mild obscurity at this point. Like we're recording the same day as Under Event. In the
Yeah.
past couple of years, there's been less and less fan takes. Like I'm pretty sure this year there was only one, and that was Vision Crew. And
that
last
got
year there were a
downscaled.
lot more.
You have chapter rewritten is probably the biggest Deltarune year right now, which is it's still kicking, but it's not as big as I think it was at its peak when it was earlier.
No, yeah, it's
Also,
definitely.
it's just like I'm realizing we're really never getting another paper trail. Another actually finished continuation of Deltarune's story.
Yeah, that's probably Paper Trail. Paper Trail was ahead of its time, honestly.
It was.
Wait till we see the many Ralses.
Yeah, we go to chapter 3 and there's just a second round. I'm Asriel
Ringo
3.
Ralse.
It's
I kind of think
Toriel.
among the more, I think
Wait,
Passion.
no. Onion Sans Azrael 3. We need
No,
Azrael
Onion
4.
is Asriel 2.
Wait, okay, that's true. So we need
And I guess this is
Azrael
Azrael
4 because
4.
Rouse is Azrael 3.
So this is Asriel 4.
I think to an extent, passion for Deltarune, not among like the teens, but among more casual fans, has somewhat been decreasing just due to 3 years of no content.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's
the
kinda
Theorist
diffusing.
community is still strong, but I feel like the like artist community kind of lost a lot of its energy, which is understandable.
I don't think though. Or depends on what you mean by the artist.
And
Community.
also what you mean by the theorist. There's a lot of theorists who also
Yeah.
lost steam.
At the very least, the circles we're in have stayed the course. But yeah.
I mean, I
Even-
think like, sorry.
Oh, stream.
Even then,
Stream ended.
people
Yeah,
still
I'm just-
faded out.
I'm just turning it off because my computer keeps freezing a little bit. So my computer froze during that text. So I'm just gonna turn that off to see if it helps.
All right, that's all right.
Alright.
Penguin could do.
I want to stare at the depths now.
Yeah,
Penguin,
it's
were you gonna
also
say
it's fine because I didn't have anything to add to that conversation. So that was a fine time
Okay.
to wait for it to freeze.
Yeah, we can cut that out. Wait, Penguin, what did you say? Or what, can you finish what you were saying?
I feel like even though like technically the circles we're in are still kicking, there's a lot of people who were in those circles for a while who aren't anymore just because
Yeah, that's also true.
it's been so long. They've
It's
run
been
out
so
of
long.
things to say. They don't want to say anything anymore.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. I think, okay, that's also kind of a consequence of literally like debating stuff for years. I think if
Yeah.
if you just have a Deltarune hyperfixation for years, you can absolutely maintain it. It's like very much well fed. There are some people who have like a Hollow Knight thing and they, but for like casual fans that aren't literally like hyper fixated consuming fan content, like writing fanfics, listening to songs and all that, they have seemingly just like forgotten what happened in chapters 1 and 2.
I mean, like
Yeah.
even personally, I've definitely been much less. I mean, not like interested, like in my heart and my soul, I'm still interested, but I've definitely been much less actively
I get that.
participating in.
It was
You know,
very
I've-
depressing to see reactions like Toby Fox's announcement that the game would come out in 2025, and a bunch of people being like, "I'm not playing this till it's done," or "Toby's lost me" and
Yeah.
stuff.
I mean,
It's kind of
I get,
unfortunate.
I understand the. I don't want.
I understand it, but I also don't understand it.
Yeah.
Is where I'm at.
I understand it, but it's sad.
Paradoxical.
Oh yeah.
I think that's enough retrospective. We do have a lot of stuff to get to, so I feel like we should probably try and move along to more specific topics. The first one that's on our list that I think that we should maybe talk about
Played,
is
yeah.
friend. It made
Yeah,
I don't know
Trondor-
what to make a friend.
Right.
I'm always of
I
two
don't know what
minds
to make
about
a
it.
friend either.
What is there
I
to
hate-
say about
A lot.
Do you doubt our
Surprisingly.
power? We could say so many things about friend.
Honestly, I have nothing to say, so I'll sit back.
me
The
neither?
deal with friend.
I'm here to
is-
learn.
Okay, so
we need to do a lesson on friend.
if you want to
Yes.
think about friend, what a lot of
Oh, yeah, I
people
guess
think
you never
friend is,
Didn't do Spamfin until recently.
yeah, I mean, the prevailing theory among a lot of people is that friend is some weird Cheshire cat thing. Like,
I wouldn't say that's among a lot of people, but
it's among a significant number of people.
That is the only opinion I have on it.
Like, no,
oh wait,
because
it's just like it being a treasure
it's
cat
a-
reference at all.
yeah, it's a smiling
Yeah.
face that disappears,
yeah.
and the unused texts mention scratching, and those are unused, so they're on the code level. And then you also have the fact that friend is device friend, so maybe that's a
I
connection.
could still see friend just being like a random creepy thing Toby did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can also kind
That's
of
where
see
I'm at.
friend being a random creepy thing, but also I could totally see friend being some like chapter 3 cryptid thing that shows up and just has no explanation. I can kind of see that.
Okay,
Kind
I guess
of.
I do have more opinions than I thought. My only thing is that it looks like Spampton, and so it's like I can't see why it would be anything else in the future. Just because it looks like Spampton.
Ace, though.
So why would it be someone in the future? Like, unless it is someone who looks like purposefully makes themselves look like the things that are like, if it's referencing, it's your friend, so it references things in the chapter.
It's
like
the mimic. Like,
yeah,
I don't
it's the
know.
mimic.
No, because the thing about the eyes for me is that a lot of people are like, oh, Spampton is copying Friend. Like Friend is like the person who was on the phone. Maybe the friend is Mike, and he's copying the glasses as a way of remembering it. But I don't like that because like
Yeah.
the game goes out of its way to tell us, oh, Spampton is impersonating Swatch. That's why his glasses are
Q&A
like that.
too.
And
Guys,
then
what
in
if
the
Swatch
sweepstakes,
is Friend?
when asked, Toby went out of his way to be like, yeah, Spampton was disguised as Swatch. He's his look. So why would Toby like double down on this piece of information?
Yes.
But then in chapter 3 be like, oh yeah, by the way, that detail meant like something entirely different. There's just two different explanations that are both true, and there was no inclination that there was more to the truth than you knew. Sorry, like what? I don't get it.
The thing that convinces me Friend might be something is that he reappears of a sort in the
In the
sweepstakes.
sweepstakes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, with eyes, that PNG, and face.
On that point, a while ago when I was coming up with my own secret boss concept, I was thinking, well, Friend, it has that connection to Spampton, but it's the eyes, the colors are flipped, which is weird. And I feel like if Friend's going to show up again, it's not going to be connected to Spampton in the same way.
Yeah.
I feel like it's possible, like, Image Friend is connected to the secret bosses in general. So, like, maybe it shows up in Chapter 3 and it's mimicking the Chapter 3 boss's eyes or
guess,
something like
but, like,
that.
That's the only way that makes sense to me.
Toby forgot. Or,
Like,
He didn't come up with
Just like
it
you
yet.
forgot
the
shadow
out of the
crystals.
To be fair,
I
with the
feel like
shadow
it's
crystals-
shadow crystals.
The thing with the
The
shadow
eyes in the
crystals,
cage are Jebel's thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
true,
guess.
Jebel's
No, the
friend.
thing with the shadow crystals for me is that I feel like they were specifically designed so that Toby could retcon them in without actually retconning them in. Like, oh, you always got the shadow crystal, you just didn't notice. And then like later he decided, no, that's stupid, and they just made it so it actually appears for consistency. But like I feel like that was what he was going for. Like, oh, it
But
was
do you think they
always
were
there.
planned since 2018, or do you think that it was
No,
just
I feel like no. I think they
retconned?
were definitely made after release, but I feel like he realized I don't want to
Right,
change
yes.
chapter 1. So what if the MacGuffin for the secret bosses is invisible, so you didn't realize you got it?
What if
Was his
Friend
thought
is
process.
the shadow crystal?
I'm not sure that makes sense.
This is why I didn't want to talk about Friend.
Let's
What do you
change
mean?
topics.
We're having fun.
Let's talk about what. Let's
I
talk
think
about
we should talk
WD
about everything,
Gaster.
but well, wait. Let's
Yes!
Jump to Gaster.
Okay, that's a bit of an
Why don't we
escalation.
talk about shadow
Gaster!
crystals?
Gaster!
Gaster shall save us all.
Or
All
kill
right.
us.
First off, do we think Gaster is real?
Yes.
Yes!
Undoubtedly.
Kind
Like,
real.
it
I think
exists in
Gaster
real life.
lives
Can
in
you
the
prove
real
it?
world.
I think Gaster is real, but I don't necessarily know if I think that Gaster is like gonna appear in chapters 3 or 4. I feel like it's very
Oh, yeah,
possible that
yeah.
we go. I feel like it's very possible we go through all of chapter 3 and all of chapter 4, and there is like, aside from the secret bosses stuff, there's like no direct new Gaster lore. I could totally see that.
100%. I agree.
I could also
don't
see it be escalating levels of Gaster lore.
Yeah, either way.
I
Yeah.
think it would be best if it's increasing levels
Actually,
of Gaster.
it wouldn't be increasing levels because chapter 2 had lower than chapter 1.
But yeah.
Okay.
Oscillating.
Oscillating Gaster.
Next one will have even more gas lore, and the next one after that will have even less than chapter 2.
Less than chapter 2.
You remove the phone. Just gone.
No phone, no secret boss. We get rid of the secret boss.
Well, by that pattern, chapter 6 would have minimum Gaster of all of them. But then it's called chapter 6. So that's already an oxymoron.
Mhm.
Deltarune is a game of contradictions.
It's really there's so much contradictory.
Do we think Gaster's a good guy?
Oh,
Oh.
we are the guys, but our team is the weird, quiet occult studies kid, the school bully, and a goat horde prince of darkness who uses fire magic. And we're on
And
a
a demon.
quest to save the world by banishing holy fountains to destroy heaven by contract of the devil. Like that's the story. It's a bit jumbled. And we're stopping Hell's Roar.
I feel like quality is going to something we're also never going to be settled on.
Yeah. I don't know.
I like that.
Yeah,
think
I
I
think
think
part of
we
it's just
should-
because. Oh, sorry.
No, I think we should end the game like that. I think he should be ambiguous and weird, and we should never ever get a good read on him. Like even with all the lore, like no matter how much lore we get about Gaster, I want there to be more questions. Like I never want to
Yeah.
understand him.
I'm fine with that. I feel like all I really want is I want his motivations to be clear, as at least in terms of like what he was trying to do, but leave it kind of unclear whether that was
Yeah.
justified or like why he wanted to do that. Kind of like I feel like it should be clear what his intentions are, even if we don't understand why his intentions are, if that makes sense.
Something I
You're the man who
really
speaks in hands.
like about like Fangaster portrayals is that they're all over the place.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like sadly
Mm.
there aren't enough like morally gray ones, I think. Because I really like the idea of Gaster just being that morally gray, ambiguous guy. But
Yeah.
the portrayals are all over the place, and I really like that he's just there.
Yeah.
What if he does have a turtleneck?
Turtleneck.
I would like that.
We can't talk about Gaster
Turtleneck,
without
he's
at
not
least
Mystery
Just like
Man.
the knight, who is Alvin. Turtleneck.
No, we're not,
he's
that's the end. Right, is the last thing we're talking about. No, we can't talk about Gaster without at least briefly talking about the Valentine's letter. I want to get this over with. I don't want to get into it.
Okay.
The Valentine's letter. Yay!
You sound so enthused.
hate-
I'm,
Don't you just love Valentine's Day?
The time is going
Uh,
around. It's been nearly a year since the Valentine's letter, and we
Oh
still.
god,
That's
it has.
crazy.
My opinion remains, as it always has, that the Valentine's letter was not written by Gaster per se, but it was written by a different like piece of him. Because like he's shattered into pieces. I think a different piece of Gaster wrote the letter, and the purpose of the letter is for us to realize, oh, there's different pieces of him that's relevant.
I'm holding a
But
piece of him
That's
right
very
here.
controversial right now. No one.
I guess
agrees
the
with
only
that.
thing is just so far in Deltarune, there have been. I mean, okay. As far from what I can tell, I don't have a photographic Deltarune memory. I don't have the dialogue dump memorized.
I
But
do.
from what I can tell, cool. I know you're
Oh.
just like that.
Alright, what's the
From what I can
127th line?
tell, from what I can tell, there have been no like other pieces of evidence for like Gaster having different pieces that act independently. So far, every time we've seen him, he's been like one entity
yeah,
that.
that's what I'm saying. The
follows the
letter
same-
was for us
Well-
to
I
realize
feel like
this, because
it's
until
Yeah,
now,
and I'm
we don't
saying
know
I feel
anything.
like it's a little late and weird for the letter to be the only thing indicating that.
But
It
you know,
doesn't
you know,
Late? Gaster hasn't done much in game.
I mean, I
It's
really have.
weird for the
Oh my god. Sorry, my computer's fucking.
you know the guy. Computer's what, sir?
Peter's what?
I was gonna say, oh my god.
I feel like it's early enough to where Gaster can be anything. I feel like it's entirely possible.
There's
I
the
do think that
Gaster
this information
follower
would be
who
given in
says,
game. Obviously, I don't think it would just be like.
Yeah, I was gonna mention the Gaster follower of I'm holding a piece of him right here. So like there is
there's
some
precedent for it.
I feel like it's weird to introduce it in a Deltarune context
That's the
in
thing.
external content first. Like, I
Yeah.
agree with that take generally. I just feel like if you're going to introduce that to the Deltarune sphere, you should probably introduce
I think it's going to be
that
brought up.
looking at Deltarune first, and
No,
then
I get that, but I feel
external
like it's
stuff.
going to be brought up in the game itself at some point.
I
And I feel
mean,
like it's going to
yeah.
be explained. I feel like the letter is
Okay.
kind of just like hinting at it for like the super lore nerds to, because like your average Deltarune fan doesn't even know this thing exists. So like it's going to work.
Can
for
we-
them.
Yeah.
The average Deltarune fan at this point probably knows Gaster exists, but someone who's like just playing this series blind would not know Gaster even exists.
Yeah,
And that's
even if
something
you
to think
click on the
about.
top, that doesn't-
Strangely,
Uh,
that's a point of contention. I've got into several arguments where people are like, no, Gaster is really well known
I
because
don't think he is.
apparently
I feel like if he's well
not
known
a
to the
secret.
Undertale community, but I don't think he's well known to like gaming as a whole. Okay, we had technical difficulties. We're back now, I think. Uh,
I think.
we should be good to go. We were talking
It's
about the
lost media
Valentine's
now.
letter. Let's not talk about the Valentine's letter. Let's talk about something else that's actually fun.
So
Chapter 4 is
This
Dark
first, that's-
World. Where is the Chapter 4 Dark World going to go?
We kind of already talked about this.
We
a
did.
little bit.
We talked
I
briefly.
feel like
It's down to the church versus Flower King right now. Is
No,
community
it's down to
consensus.
church or Noel's house is like the most.
Oh yeah,
community
sorry.
consensus.
It's church versus Noel's house versus Flower King is the consensus.
My thing, and this isn't really a theory, just my opinion, is that I just feel like we're already getting a house. I don't really want another house. Like, obviously they're going to be very different. I just feel like it'd be more interesting to have different buildings rather than just two houses, you know? And like, that's not really a theory. That's me going, I don't want that. And I'm sure that whatever we get will be great. I just personally am like, I don't really want two houses.
I think it'd
I
be
know,
fine.
I feel like the
just
manor-
think
for
it'd
me,
be
the way the
preferable
manor
if it's not
works-
back to back.
Yeah,
The manor,
yeah.
I think the manor, if it happens, I think it's going to happen, but I feel like the manor is late game because I feel like the manor Dark World is going to be like a video game themed, and I feel like that's end game material. Like that's the final boss.
Do we think we're getting video game? Because Chapter 2 had a lot of video game stuff.
No, but Chapter 2 is internet.
I
Mostly.
don't disagree.
It is?
I
It had
like it's
some
kind of-
What
video
what
games,
is
that
the
wasn't
video game stuff
focus.
in it?
And also
I mean, like-
consider Lancer Spin. The 8-bit
Oh,
Lancer
true.
sprite.
So true. I don't know what that means, but I agree. I will always consider Lancer Spin.
No, because it's an 8-bit, like it's a pixelated Lancer sprite. Why would that be in the game?
Oh, I just think Toby's having a fun time.
I mean, maybe, we don't know. To be fair,
You
I feel
just-
like if that was true, though, that would mean Chapter 5, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to tell.
I guess that is like a thing though of if I mean if we're all in agreement that like escapism is a huge theme of the game, which I think it is less of a theme than a lot of it is obviously a theme of the game. I think it is less of one than a lot of people put like people are like escapism is the theme of Deltarune. While I'm more like I think it's more of like the entire concept of fiction and like the way you interact with it rather than explicitly escapism.
I would agree with that.
Deltarune.
Did I say that?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It just sounded like
Visit to the
that's
dentist.
probably just
I
me.
hate this
But
as well.
No, I listen. I don't even remember what I was saying.
it's a.
But I was gonna say but I do think that obviously escapism is a theme of the game that is going to be important. What other escapisms are there? like obviously there are, there is more to explore there. But we have TV, we have internet, we have games, we have books,
Books and then like
I
a
meant TV.
self-referential
internet. What did I say?
video games. There's
By
not-
games, I meant like toys and like play pretend.
Yeah.
The chapter
Yeah.
one, you know what I meant.
You can make a strong argument for art.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess that's the craft
Could.
room.
Like arts
Yeah.
and crafts, yeah. Arts and
I just
Green crayon.
I mean, okay, if we do have like, say we have first 3 chapters on like board games, internet, and then TV, and then next 3 are something like art, books, and video games, like a more like self-referential meta chapter for like video games in some sense.
that is an
Then
argument for
maybe for like the 7th chapter, 6th chapter or something can afford to just be like, okay, this one's not about escapism,
Mhm.
any specific concept, but just like the general thematic ideas, like during the roaring or some such.
I
yeah.
do think
Which does give us enough concepts to explore for a full, in theory.
yeah. I
Theoretically,
do think a potential boon in the church concept is the idea of religion being an escape, but that is like a touchy subject to
Yeah,
tackle.
it would
Be
kind of
really
be weird,
hard
I
to
think, like
manage
how we
properly.
treat like, oh, and then this is the chapter where they explore the escapism and fun in board games and the internet and television and organized religion.
I will say,
Like, one of
chapter
those
one-
things is not like the other.
I don't disagree, but there is a lot like
What I
religion
usually
is
see
already a
parroted
very
That
now-
feels
big part of
outside the
game.
scope of Deltarune.
I mean,
Nowadays, what I see is a lot of people who think, oh, it'll be like a youth group art room. So it'll be arts and crafts.
I think it'd be like the literature chapter.
yeah, I can see
It's
it being
what it
books.
Literature.
chapter 1 is
But
literally
what would you do for a book-based Dark World?
I don't know.
The
I think we could do
objects-
some stuff.
Fairy
are
tales.
toys, but the chapter isn't really about that at all, really.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. But no, but I can't even think of that many Darkners. I guess I can't talk about this. I've seen it done, I guess. So I guess I can trust in it.
I
Yeah.
feel like a literature-based Dark World could really easily just be like based on fairy tales, except Deltarunified. But that's also because I'm a big fan of a musical that's a bunch of fairy tales mishmashed.
We'll talk about Into the Woods.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's make it Into the Woods podcast now.
So
Deltarune
It's
chapter 4, the
DEPTHSCAST.
musical.
Yeah, I mean, like, I would love that. Are you kidding? A musical? Yes, let's go for
That's-
it.
I feel like so that's enough talking about the chapter 4 Dark World, I think. I think we can now move on to Dark World history. That's a fun one.
Oh no.
For you.
I mean, I love
Yeah.
this too.
This is a fun
This is-
topic to have in
this
a
is-
text discussion. I don't know if I have it in me
Yeah.
to rant about this
Yeah.
vocally.
Same.
This is a conversation that Brix and I have had. So we've gone back
See,
and forth.
weirdly
on this.
enough, I want to talk about the Letter Moon, but I don't really want to talk about Dark World history.
I want to just kind of like touch on the concepts of it of like retroactive history and the way that things
Yeah, I think
go. I know Brix
retroactive
has
history is like
your
100% real in my mind. When you make a Dark World, it makes the history with it. Like, Cyberworld didn't exist before the day of Chapter 2, but once it was made, it always had existed.
yeah. That was always a big topic of people being like, oh no, it existed. It was like you're just accessing another dimension, which I disagree with. I think it created a world in which it always existed. But then the question of that is, what does a world that has always like? What does it mean to create a world that has history? You know, like is it
Yeah.
did everybody have false memories, or is it like? You know, and I do think a lot of people say it doesn't matter, but I do think it does matter because it
I think
matters, in terms of
some
Gaster.
sense. What I think,
matters
I mean,
for
I
world
could
building.
talk about this for like hours. I'm not going to get into it, but I think I have a very specific model that I've talked at length about elsewhere. I'm not going to talk about it here, but I think that Dark Worlds run on canon, so to say. Like, the Dark Worlds themselves have their own canon that they adhere to, and when you make a new fountain, it adds new information to that canon. And the Dark World as a whole, so the Darkness inside of it and anything in the Dark World, basically treats canon as fact, even if that's not technically what happened. So, like, Dark World canon says Cyberworld always existed, and so all of the Darkners treat it that way because that's the truth for them.
See, I don't disagree with you, but I do have a small nitpick, is that I do think that once you create it, it like retroactively makes it so that it did always exist. Like that is now truth, and that is like a fact. So that like if you
Yeah.
could theoretically exist outside of space and time, you could then go backwards before the Dark World was created because
Well, yeah,
you
but the
created
problem
something
is-
that has always existed.
I mean, I think you could do that either way because you have weird
No,
time
but-
powers.
But
But
Queen
no,
knows
it-
that the Queen knows that the Dark World used to be the computer lab.
Yeah, no, but they're both true, and it's like it's both
I
true.
think
Both
it's
of
true
these
that the Dark
timelines.
World always existed. I think it's just a matter of who you ask, if that makes sense. Not in like a false memory sense, but like as far as the Dark World itself is concerned, it always existed. The
I think
entire,
it-
like not like the entire Dark World as like a realm of being.
I think it is. I think they're the two simultaneous facts that seem contradictory but are in fact true. Like Lancer is both your friend and party member and, you know, your little brother, and he is also a playing card that is the Jack of Spades. You know, he is
Yeah.
both of these things, and they are both true. The Dark World both was created, you know, on the day of the computer lab. The Dark World was created that same, or well, we can get into when the Dark World's created, but you know, it
let's
was
not
created
do-
on that day.
That's later. We'll get into closet night later.
Yeah. And it was also always existed, you know. They think those things because I think it is. it's like
It's complicated.
when Deltarune, when we played Chapter 1 of Deltarune, to us that is it existing for the first time. But to the people in the world of Deltarune, like if you lived in the world of Deltarune, that world always existed, and
Yes.
most of these things are true. And I think that we'll
That's
be
basically
getting
how I
into,
see it with the Dark World too. Like
Yeah.
if you ask the Light World if it always existed, the Light World itself would say yes. If you ask our world if the Light World always existed, we would say no. That's how we see
Yeah.
the Dark World. If you ask the Dark World if it always existed, yes, it did. But from the Light's World perspective, it didn't. It depends on what level you engage with it in. That's how I see
and
it.
I do also think that, like, because
Yeah. I think we're getting lost in the sauce here.
I know
to
we are
be
getting
honest.
lost. I love getting lost in the sauce.
This
But
is
there's
what
also-
theorizing is.
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
want to touch on the idea of these objects, like both existing as objects, like the way that people interact with the objects, making the dark news what they are. Because there's a question of I'm losing my
Immorality?
train of thought. There's so many thoughts here in my brain.
Yeah. What I do want to talk about, what I do actually think is worth talking about with this, the one like everything else I feel like is minutia and semantics, but the one thing that I think does really matter in the context of retroactive history is the fact that Susie does not understand the Dark World right now, like explicitly, and that's huge. I think that's going to be huge for chapter like 3 or 4. I don't know if it'll be 3 or 4, but I feel like that's definitely going to be a
3 or
major
4 is
plot
really
point
early.
because like. It's so specific that Susie does not understand fundamentally that Lancer cannot come to the Light World. Like, she just doesn't get it. Like, she's like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if Rousey were, like, in class with us? Or, like, and, like, when we leave Castletown, Susie just straight up thinks Lancer ditched them. Like, she does not understand what is happening at all.
It's such an odd detail that Toby must be setting up something.
Yeah,
later.
that's definitely a
yeah.
reveal.
But watch it be a
And-
stupid joke.
Oh god, no.
It better not be.
I mean,
I'm gonna
I
set this
personally,
up chapters in advance. It's going to be the stupidest joke ever, and it's going to make everyone hate me.
is that the end of the sentence?
Okay.
My take is that it is going to tie into a big reveal in which Susie learns that that Chris is being controlled by someone who is not us. All the Darkners are just objects. It's gonna be like
Everything
the-
Susie is living off of
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, the
Not
rock
punch after
bottom of
gut punch
Susie's
after
arc.
gut punch.
Yeah,
Except Noelle, specifically.
yeah. I mean, and that could be if you're a Suzel person, that's a good.
But on the
motive.
weird route,
but yeah, it is
she won't
very.
even have Noelle if it's the weird route.
I know.
True.
I feel like this could be a potential segue into talking about the namesake of this podcast, the depth.
Oh,
Well, I
that's
was gonna
true.
say just like about Susie is that she very much like had her arc in chapter 1 and is kind of like with a really great arc, really fun, but she kind of a little bit like is now like chapter 2. She isn't that interesting.
No,
Right?
And
that's a bad
totally-
thing.
Totally. I love Susie in chapter 2.
Yeah.
She's my
From-
favorite
from-
character in
from-
character, I think.
From a character arc perspective, she's kind of just like
Yeah,
she's at the same line.
done, but,
Her
like, that
arc
doesn't
is
make her
over.
I mean, yeah,
not
she doesn't
interesting.
have much growing to do in chapter 2, but that doesn't mean
Yeah.
like as
No,
you're saying,
that-
she has more growing to do for the rest of the game. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is that like you can't really have that. Like she's just like your main character is just done growing. It's like she did all of her character arc in chapter
yeah.
1, and now she's just good now in chapter 2, and that's like she's a very fun character. She's one of my favorite characters in like all of media.
Yeah,
I think she's
she's
just
great.
so much fun.
Oh.
But I do think that you do need something new to happen to her because
She
she's
needs to
kind
get a
of
new haircut.
And I think her
yeah. She's
realizing
gonna do a
that-
haircut.
I don't know like how specific the game is going to get, but I definitely think on some level, Susie is going to have to come to terms with how the Dark World works. That's
Yeah,
clearly.
I
a
think
thing.
100%, and I think Susie's gonna have to break bad again, and then I think she's
Yeah.
going to
Like,
regress.
she's gonna go back to not like engaging with it.
She's gonna cook meth again.
Okay.